As we are seeing, there are lots of extreme climatic events happening. Even this year, we saw extreme snowfall in Kansas, and also we saw this extreme flooding happening in Texas right now. So those events are also actually disrupting our supply chain system, and eventually it will impact our food system. So these are the kind of some of the challenges that we have: existing inequalities, existing issues with access to fresh food, healthy food. And on top of that, we are having these challenges of maintaining our supply chain system, and also this kind of changing climate, how that is impacting our production system.
A group of Kansas State University faculty members is working to improve food access across urban areas in Kansas. The $1.2 million project, Development of Resilient Urban Food Systems that Ensure Food Security in the Face of Climate Change, is funded through K-State's Game-Changing Research Initiation Program. The project includes more than 15 scientific disciplines, 12 graduate research assistants, and supports multiple seed projects. On today's Sound Living, Boosting Urban Food Systems. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wickman. K-State Assistant Professor in Landscape Architecture and Regional and Community Planning Shakil Kashem and Marie Binte Edrish, a member of Dr. Kashem's research team and a master's student in Landscape Architecture and Regional and Community Planning, is looking at ways that local government can address gaps in healthy food access through better zoning, transportation planning, and support for local food networks. Shakil, first off, maybe what was some of the motivation for getting into this project?
So my broad research interest is in urban social vulnerability, particularly how our city plans and policies can help address the concerns of vulnerable low-income populations, or how faulty planning can create spaces of vulnerability in our cities and regions. So within this broad lens, I focus on housing, disaster risk management, transportation, and urban food system. My key research objective is how to make plans and policies that can create more equitable and resilient cities and communities in Kansas and throughout the United States. Now, what really pulled me into urban food system research is the idea that access to healthy and affordable food plays a big role in how healthy and strong a community is. When I started thinking about community resilience, it means that how a community can bounce back after a crisis like a storm or a pandemic. I realized that food access is a huge part of that. If people can afford food easily, that puts a lot of stress on families, especially during emergencies. That got me interested in how city planning can help build food systems that are strong, fair, and ready for anything.
This is a project that's taking place in the Kansas City area?
Mostly on Kansas City area, but we are also focusing on other parts of Kansas, kind of urban areas. But the projects that I am working on, those are on Kansas City metro area.
Tell us a little bit about some of the challenges then of urban food systems.
So one of the biggest challenge in urban food system today is that not everyone has easy access to fresh, healthy, and affordable food. In many cities, there are neighborhoods where people have to travel a long way just to find a grocery store. We are often calling them food deserts. At the same time, cities also deal with food waste, rising food prices, supply chain disruption, and the impacts of climate change on how and where food is grown. City planning plays a big role in fixing this problem. For example, cities can support community gardens and farmers market, especially in areas that don't have enough stores with fresh food. Planners can also make sure that there is affordable public transportation that helps people get to food store more easily. And they can work with local businesses to support small grocery stores or food co-ops in underserved neighborhoods. Planning for green spaces and urban farms also helps cities grow more of their own food, which is better for the environment and can bring communities together. So overall, good city planning can help make sure that healthy food is not a luxury, but something everyone can access, no matter where they live.
So part of this comes into the planning process for the city themselves. They've got to make sure that there's space for the farmers markets. They've got to make sure that there's green space to maybe have gardens. So that takes some long-term planning.
Yeah, as part of the city plan, we have zoning regulations, and sometimes we are also having long-term comprehensive plans. For that, first of all, we are seeing that, okay, what is the current situation in our cities, that what kind of vacant land we have, what is the current demand we have for food and other services. So as part of that, we can actually plan for that. We can plan that, okay, we have this kind of local food need, and we have these good spaces out there that we can use of local urban food production system. So right now, our cities all over the country is not doing it consistently. In some cities, they're doing a good job. In some cities, there is not that much comprehensive plans. So as part of my research, actually, I'm also looking into that okay, how city plans are addressing this kind of local food need and how better they can address it through this kind of local production supports.
Could this also then be applied to when someone decides to do a new subdivision? Talk a lot about you got to have sidewalks, but maybe we also need to be talking about the fact that you need to have places for food to be grown or to be sold.
So that is actually part of our research too, that not only production, but how we have local kind of supply system there, local stores there that can sell the locally produced food. So when we're looking at food deserts, the thing is that in most of the cases, those are missing kind of healthy grocery stores there, fresh food sources there. So when you're looking at local production support, we are also looking into that, okay, how those can be connected to the broader supply chain and how kind of local community can be involved with that. They can be supported by this fresh produce.
Maria, maybe just some brief background on the projects that you're working on. What have you been working on so far?
My project actually focuses on improving food accessibility in underserved neighborhood across Kansas City metro area. So I'm using a spatial and statistical method to identify where access to healthy food source is limited and how that access has changed over time and what measures can be taken there to improve the healthy food access. So a key part of my project is based on the calculating the modified retail food environmental index, which is actually basically healthy food sources versus total food sources in a certain area. Sometimes it can be census tract, sometimes it can be block group area level. So my project is that calculating the index value has been calculating for 3 time periods, 2011, 2019, and 2024. And I followed CDC official method, but collected and processed all the data by myself using GIS, Geographic Information System. And I mapped and calculated the index value at the census tract level and compared those results across the 3 years to understand if there is any kind of trend present or not. I also used regression and ANOVA modeling to test whether the differences in food access scores are statistically significant based on key socioeconomic factors such as SNAP participants, unemployment, race, sometimes transportation barriers. And this helped highlight the structural disparities and persistent gaps in food access.
So the gaps are there.
Yeah.
Has it been recently? Because you said you did kind of a historical dive into this. So is it something that occurred gradually, or was there a time where we could pinpoint that this is when things really changed?
That's the thing actually I'm looking for. Still, it's ongoing study. So we calculated for 2011, then we take break for 2019. So that way we could identify that is COVID happened to be impacted our food access or not, food accessibility or not. That is why we took 3 years, 2011, 2019, and 2024.
So one thing I can chime in there actually, that as part of this changing food environment, one issue that we are looking at is inner city areas. Sometimes we have closure of grocery store, sometimes new stores are opening up. So in which areas are actually we are seeing this kind of pattern that okay, some neighborhoods are losing stores, some areas are having new stores. So how this pattern is happening over time and which areas are kind of consistently left out?
It seems from what I've heard in the past that there's not a large profit margin for grocery stores. Does that come into play here, the fact that they think they need to have the mega store as opposed to a smaller store?
So this is actually a big issue throughout the country and particularly for our rural communities in Kansas and inner city areas too. So most of the time the profit margin is very thin actually for grocery stores, and when you are dealing with a small grocery store, they are even in the marginal level that way that they cannot survive if they are having any issue with their earning, and as a result the store has to close.
Maria, now how do you think that working on this project may help you as a researcher? We talked briefly in the lobby about some of the things that this has helped you with.
This project actually helped me to shape my research identity and professional development by allowing me to work at the intersection of spatial analysis, community planning, and public health all at a time. So it's giving me the tool to understand that the complex food system challenges from both data-driven and human-centered perspectives. As a researcher, I have gained experience building original datasets, applying statistical and geospatial techniques, and designing indicators to capture multidimensional space of food system. So moving forward with my project, I am expanding this into a spatial multi-gated decision-making framework that will help to identify optimal location for urban agriculture and other healthy food interventions. So I could say that professionally, the project has deepened my understanding of how data-driven planning can inform and or help decision-making processes.
So what's next then? Where do we take this project in the future?
So right now we have some preliminary research done through our seed project and also broader GRIP project. The broader team, actually the different teams are working on different manuscripts right now. For my part of the project, I'm working on 2 manuscripts and 1 manuscript already at the final stage of the review. And going forward, we are looking at some broader external funds to support our research. As part of the GRIP project, we are now working on a proposal in collaboration with several other institutions that would allow us to develop an urban food system innovation hub at K-State. We also have several other collaborative research efforts that branched out from our GRIP project. We expect that those efforts will also help us bring external funding to support our research.
If you were just trying to sum this up for somebody in terms of the challenges and what you think may be the solutions, what would you say?
So there are challenges actually in multiple fronts. So one thing is, right now, the main project focus that we are dealing with is the climate change. That due to climate change, we are having issues with food production. At the local level, regional level, we are having the food production issues. And at the same time, we have existing inequality in food access. We have, as I mentioned before, that we have issues of food desert. And on top of that, as we are seeing, there are lots of extreme climatic events happening. Even this year, we saw extreme snowfall in Kansas, and also we saw this extreme flooding happening in Texas right now. So those events are also actually disrupting our supply chain system, and eventually it will impact our food system. So these are the kind of some of the challenges that we have: existing inequalities, existing issues with access to fresh food, healthy food, and on top of that, we are having these challenges of maintaining our supply chain system, and also this kind of changing climate, how that is impacting our production system.
We also have tremendous food waste in the U.S. too, right?
Yep. So that is another issue that we are not having a good look at. Okay, as part of the production system, we are having wastage. After production, we are also having some lots of waste happening. So there's some research going on. As part of our project, we are not looking into that, but how to reduce the food waste, there are lots of discussion on that, policy-wise, technology-wise, what can be done. Lots of researchers out there also looking into that.
I think one of the things we sometimes forget is the fact that we think if it's an urban area that there must be transportation. That's not always the case, right?
Yeah, that's another thing too, that sometimes in lots of areas we don't have a good public transportation system, and that is causing this food desert too, that maybe it is not in walkable distance, but if you could have public transportation, you could easily access healthy food sources. But in lots of cases we don't have that. Another thing is that food deserts have more low-income minority population, and they don't have cars. So in those cases we need to have good public transportation, which we don't have in most of the cities.
I think I'm starting to see the reason why you have so many different people working on this project.
So yeah, that's the thing, that urban food system is a kind of complex network of lots of actors, institutions, and resources. So whenever we are researching urban food system, it actually needs this interdisciplinary team that can look at the whole system from different perspectives, and they can collaborate on that. So as part of our GRIP project, we are doing particularly that we are having people from different disciplines on campus. Although we have our own small projects, but at the same time, we are also looking at this broader process of urban food system and how can we have a resilient food system in our Kansas communities.
That's Kansas State University Assistant Professor in Landscape Architecture and Regional and Community Planning, Shakil Kashem, and Marie Binte Edrish, a member of Dr. Kashem's research team and a master's student in Landscape Architecture and Regional and Community Planning. The Urban Food Systems Initiative is funded through K-State's Game-Changing Research Initiation Program. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wickman, and this is the K-State Radio Network.